Hello and welcome. We're here together to talk about the healing journey. And I'm talking about not the band aid surface healing, but the healing that enables for deep impact, deep healing with lasting impact. And if we don't know each other, I'm Laurie Morse. I'm a 30-year practitioner of Chinese medicine. And actually, Chinese medicine has informed a great deal of how I understand this healing journey. I'm also the director of the Sacred Health Academy, which is an online journey for sacred healing so that we can cultivate as human beings our birthright of a peaceful heart, a calm mind, and a vital body. So let's just jump right to it. Now I realize you may not, I'm going to use a paintbrush as a pointing stick. I feel like an old kindergarten teacher or something from the days past, but I want to be able to reach over without kind of like leaning and standing in front of everything. So I realize you may not be able to see this perfectly. I'll say what's on here. You can also maybe enlarge the screen if you want to see something specifically. And if you want to get the small, not at all fancy version of this, then I'll leave a link in the somewhere around this video to give you access to that. So this conversation is inspired by the book I wrote last year called The Art of Returning to Love: How to Show Fear and Stress the Exit and Heal. And it's also sponsored by the Sacred Health Academy. So chances are you have done your share of healing work, which actually you probably are somewhat aware of this, whether it's in the forefront of your mind or in the back burner. This serves the evolution of your soul. And as every soul moves through another evolution, it contributes to the collective of the consciousness of humanity. And that's a big thing. Even as chaos and things that are hard to watch in the world are happening around us, doing this work is one of the most valuable things that you can do. I'm not saying you shouldn't do other things like contribute or anything that your heart and soul is called to do, but leaving this piece out isn't as impactful as it otherwise would be if this piece is included in what you do in terms of your support and your reaching out. The idea of keeping our own cup full first is a huge element, and it's in every spiritual or philosophical or religious teaching. It's just that we sometimes forget. Our humanity forgets, our human mind forgets, but our heart and our divinity knows this. And so I want to go through this so that it becomes easier and easier for you to walk this labyrinth in a way that is less scary and more potent for activating your birthright of wholeness, however imperfect, right? And wholeness to me includes everything it takes for a human being to thrive on this beloved planet that we're upon, Mother Earth. So what else did I want to say about that? I know that, when we do a lot of healing things and it doesn't get us quite as far as we had hoped, especially for the amount of energy we invested, sometimes money, time, all the things, it can be frustrating and sometimes deflating. So, I'm just wanting to lay out this journey, this path, so that it is easier for you to get a better return on your investment of time, energy, and money. Okay, so just to point out a few things, this is Earth, and this is pure consciousness, or the unified field, or the higher self, or the I am presence, or love, or the universe. And this field, as you know or may not know, but hopefully you have some awareness that this field is a fabric of love. All the particles and waves are basically light, points of light, and light carries love. This is the ultimate of the alpha, omega, yin yang, masculine, feminine, light, love dance, if you will. And so it's always surrounding us. It's a cosmic field. We don't see it per se. Some people do, but you may not see it when you're chopping your onion or folding your laundry or whatever. I mean, you might. I would encourage you to ask to see it, but it may not be an ever-present thing in your life. And Earth is where we connect. We root into this body, this living body that we refer to as Earth, and she nourishes us just like she does her trees. And we can draw up an essence of nourishment like trees do. It's called hydrophil, up against gravity and fill our own systems. Our matter comes from her matter. right? So when we're connected, and this is where Chinese medicine is cool, because one of the things, the tenets in Chinese medicine, is that a human being is between earth and heaven. Heaven, in they don't mean a religious heaven. They mean this cosmic life force, this field, this atomic or molecular or particle wave energy, like that. So when we come, before we come into a human form, we are here, and we come into a human form for the primary reason, beyond keeping the species propagated, but at the level of our soul, the primary reason is to expand, evolve our soul, and that in turn expands love. That's the whole point. It may not look that way when we're boots on the ground, but that, when we find our way to being willing to visit that regularly, that, okay, that is my point, so how can I do that? Hand to heart, show me how, in connection with your higher self. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So what happens when we incarnate is that there's a bit of a separation, or a duality. There's the Tao has a beautiful way of explaining this. You might have seen that big black and white circle with a point of white in the black and a point of black in the white, that represents the yin yang, and that's oneness. And then it splits off to the yin yang. That's then becomes two, and then two on each side becomes two, and it goes all the way down to the thousand things, right? This is what everything we see on earth. But in the beginning, and we all have a center point in our heart of the beginning, because the beginning is the all. It's the still point. It's the activity of oneness and unity that our hearts are craving now, because we're moving into that from duality. And it's a bit confusing because we've only known duality like on a cellular memory level. So it's why healing is so important, so that we can sort of teach ourselves how safe it is to transform old constructs and paradigms and belief systems, and step into newer ones that we can't really remember yet, but we're teaching ourselves how to remember, and we're teaching ourselves how to discover, how to co-create with life those truths and those realities, and activate those blueprints that literally are in every cell of our body. So we have separation and duality when we leave this wholeness, this oneness that is pure consciousness, perfect divine love, whatever you want to call it. Here I say the beliefs, the programs, the constructs, and even traumas. I mean, we kind of gather trauma, we gather emotional pain, we gather things that have hurt us, whether they're physical, mental, emotional, spiritual. We gather the things that make us feel abandoned and not good enough, and all the core things that every human being has, unlovable. Those are like, key things, and we're dropped into this, let's just call it a field that becomes a treasure hunt to come back to this while we're in body. And we can't do it if we have all these layers of unhealed energy, right? We need to liberate that energy so that we become more and more of this while we're in a physical form. And that's what healing is, right? Liberating energy that is stuck and that is not having that isn't unified with this energy, right? So the human mind, so then we have, things, our separation and duality from the oneness. We have our human mind. It's a brilliant mind. There's nothing I'm going to say here that is going to be about kicking the human mind to the curb. It's mostly about putting the human mind in the co-pilot seat so that our higher divine mind can be in the pilot seat, or in the main, as the driver, so to speak, holding the reins. That's the right placement of mind, if you will. Instantly, when the human mind thinks a thought, there is chemistry that is activated in our brain. And just for the sake of ease in this conversation, let's just say there's two predominant paths. When we're in a fear response, when we're in a stress response, when we're worried, when we have anxiety, when we're in doubt, when we're collapsed, when we just feel despair, whether that's because of something grand that's going on in the world which feels justified, and I'm not saying it isn't, but it doesn't give anything good to yourself or to the field for other human beings to draw from, if you will. There's a cascade of chemistry that is basically corrosive stress response chemicals. Now, there's nothing wrong with a stress response. Of course, if we have to run across the street because a car came around the corner faster than we realized, or we're walking a child and we have to get them out of harm's way, or there's a number of ways that a stress response is honest and real, and you will know it. We all know that when those things happen. It's the other stuff. It's that constant stress response that we live in, that we've adapted to living into, that we think is normal. It is not normal. It is unnatural to live in a stress response. It's just wildly common. That's why it feels so normal, right? So we're talking about creating a spaciousness so that we don't have to always be going down that rabbit hole, right? That's part of healing too. The other path of brain chemistry is that when we've trained ourselves, and this is a muscle to build, it's a practice, it's a worthy one, I will say. Your return on your investment of this practice is greater than anything else, bar none, even the best investment, like stock market investment that you can even imagine. When you have access to taking a breath in a moment's time and saying, wait a minute, what's real here? Is there really something for me is there a saber-toothed tiger running behind me? No, there's not. Okay, let me activate my higher mind so I know I get guidance as to exactly the right thing to do or not do or say or not say, or how to just take my next step, where to place my foot next, right? Those are two very different paths. When we are in the path of that momentary spaciousness, a different set of chemicals released from our brain. It's chemicals that are healing, regenerating, soothing and calming to our nervous system. And you might have heard sympathetic and parasympathetic. It's why things like yoga and breathing and meditation and acupuncture and walks in nature are all so valuable, because they activate this branch of the nervous system where our body can actually drop in and relax and feel safe enough to start doing healing work with chemicals that are released out of the brain. And it's why the other pathway leads us to a path of disease. I'll just leave it as simple as that. Then that chemistry floods our body, one or the other, right? And then there's usually a message. So if we're in the parasympathetic branch of the nervous system and we're releasing chemicals and hormones and neurotransmitters and immune connectivity throughout our entire body, it's a huge network, right? And they're healing and they're regenerative, then there's not, we're just moving through life. But if we're in the other branch and we're in the sympathetic branch and we've got these corrosive brain chemistry chemicals that have been released, gushing through and releasing cortisol and putting us in a fight or flight response, then there's going to be a message. Maybe our heart beats fast. Maybe we get a little bit of a panic attack. Maybe there's an actual symptom, right? I'm calling any messaging that you get that something is wrong, that you're off center, that you're out of sorts, that you're in a place of unrest, right? You're in a place of tension, not ease. This is the first point of initiation on the healing path. So congratulations, that's a good thing, because those things are going to keep coming around, and we can either run from them, we can shove them under the carpet, we can shove them in the closet and close the door and hope that door never opens, but that is never going to bring us to a place of unification with our true self. Let's just say it that way. So we can either ignore it. Sometimes we don't actually notice it. That's, that idea I mentioned just a moment ago, that it's so common for us to be in that state that we don't recognize that there's actually a message of intelligence looking to get our attention. So maybe we didn't notice. So then the message gets a little louder. I have found that our higher self is very gentle, and just sort of taps us on the shoulder and whispers in our ear, but if it doesn't get our attention and it's important for us on a soul level, then the message will just keep getting louder. And that's normal. It happens to all of us. A lot of us press the snooze button, and we give me 10 more minutes to sleep, or give me another 10 years before I have to deal with this. Things are moving much more faster now. That was the old days. Now it's like, okay, give me 10 minutes before I have to actually really tend to this, if you will. And then there's these, the message gets louder. If we don't hear it, then it's going to turn into some physical or emotional noticeable pain, a symptom, if you will. So it could be depression, it could be anxiety, it could be, shoulder pain, a back pain, a jaw pain, a full-blown disease, if you will, because energy lands last in the physical. This is physics. So it comes from this place, whole and perfect. It moves all the way down through this cascade, if you will, until it lands last in the physical. And that's generally where it does get our attention, because we can't ignore a bad back that puts us flat on our back and we can't move or get up, right? we that's hard to ignore. But most of us look for attempts to fix it here. So we want to take a medication or go have a treatment or two and make it magically go away. And sometimes that does work, right? Sometimes we just threw our back out, we threw our back out. It doesn't necessarily mean it's always this unfolding or this blossoming for our highest good. And I need to say that you have to be clear that this doesn't make you wrong or bad. It simply makes you aware of how energy moves, and it gives you the opportunity to become a better manager of your energy, and ultimately a master of your own energy. That is why we said we wanted to come and have an experience in a planet of polarity and duality, is so that we could become better and better at mastering energy. So in order to heal, so this is like the good part, right? Here, our attempts to fix here may be temporary, though. This is where people will say, I thought I dealt with that, and now here it is again. I mean, we all have those things, and believe me, I'm in the same camp too. I can only teach what I have learned from my own journey, my own trial and errors, my own tripping over these things and discovering, oh, I keep doing that. That doesn't really work. Okay, let's try it this way, right? So in order to heal, and this is the idea of the healing with like deep and true healing, in order to liberate your energy with lasting impact. This is the step. Now notice this is a descending. This is like a descent of our energy, and then this is an ascending of our energy. So we hear that word a lot. We hear ascension and awakening, and what does it actually mean? Well, if it doesn't include this, and most of us who are here to in life now, we said, I will do this. I have a strong enough heart, mind, soul, body that I will do this. And when we ignore doing this, then we're actually we're not doing what we said we would, what we signed up for saying we would do, right? So the first thing is we notice the charge. We notice, oh, there's a pain here. I have this searing pain in my arm. And one of the first practices is not resisting it, because most of us are like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, what does this mean? We Google things. We kind of make ourselves crazy with all the things that it could be. And really, it's stuck energy. One of the other tenets of Chinese medicine is that whenever there is pain, there's a blockage of flow. Now, the flow could be your qi or your life force, the thing that's beating your heart and pumping your blood and digesting your food right now. It could be a blockage of blood. It could be a stagnation of nerve conduction or lymph, right? All those are possible. But if it's newer, it's usually it's a qi thing, and that's easy. That's easy to turn toward, accept without judgment of yourself, accept the fact that it's happening, and gifting yourself the things that you'll learn in order to allow that energy to move through. Energy is not designed to be stuck. Energy is designed to flow. And well, I'll just leave it there. Okay, so the first thing is to notice. And the next thing is to connect with your source of life, because I will tell you, if this is left out, and happens all the time across the world, if we leave connection to life out of the picture, this is the true healer. The love and the life force and the divinity and the universal unified field that's flowing in through and around our particles and waves as us. If that's left out of the picture, that's actually the true healer. So we need to include that, right? That would be like going into surgery and the surgeon just decided to stay home and watch a football game or something. Well, the surgery can't really go forward without a surgeon, right? So in this case, healing can't happen without the one true healer, which is the source of all life, with your conscious connection to it, an invitation of asking it to flow into you, and even to the place where there is the pain. I have lots of stories about that, and maybe I'll do a whole nother video on that, because it's that's helpful, right? To understand like how that actually works. Um, okay, so first notice, second connect. Then you turn toward the pain instead of running away from it in resistance. Turn toward it in acceptance and in acknowledgement. More often than not, when a pain gets our attention, one of the first things it really is looking for is acceptance. That is a form of love, right? It's a form of compassion. It's a form of forgiveness, that it's okay that this is happening. It's okay that this is present in our system. There's nothing wrong with you or the pain or the crevice that it was hiding in or the trauma that you originally experienced that has caused that pain to be there for all this time. And none of that was your fault. It's just what happened. And what if these things happen so that we can get really masterful at managing and mastering our energy, right? I'm not saying it's the only reason it happens. I mean, there's a lot of elements to that, but for the purpose of empowering ourselves, if there's an energy here with me that I'm aware of, that I've noticed, and it is getting my attention, and it is intelligent, as all energy is, then what do beyond the acceptance, the noticing, the invitation and connection with source, and then the acceptance of it, what would you want from me? What do you need? That's a loving thing. If there were a 3-year-old child and you loved this child with all your heart and they came to you crying, you would drop everything. You would lower yourself to their eye level and you would ask them, what happened? What do you need? What can I do for you? Put your arms around this child. I mean, that's what this part is about, right? Is that level of loving, compassionate acceptance. Then the next piece is, I've sort of already spoken about it a little bit, but it's just this loving compassion. It's a softness, it's a gentleness around the thing that is presenting itself to you. If you have a tumor somewhere, can you be soft with it? Can you be gentle? Can you have compassion for your body and the places and spaces around the tumor, and your immune system for having been overwhelmed to the degree that it couldn't manage keeping a tumor from coming, from appearing in your system. I mean, those are the kinds of ways to be compassionate, and carrying that compassionate throughout your day is important. Like, it's so easy to get into a nice space and find that compassion and turn towards the pain, and then like getting up, they say in yoga, take it off the mat, but then you leave that space and then it goes right back to the, what's the matter with me? How could I have done this? All the ways that we are critical and self-flagellating really of ourselves. Forgiveness over flagellation will win the day every time. Will heal something way more quickly and efficiently than the harshness of judgment and self-flagellation and self-criticism, right? So then the next space, or the next step, so you notice we're walking ourselves up. A lot of times people want to do all this in one full sweep just to make it go away. I mean, that's really what we want. We get this thing handled and done. I don't have time for this. I'm busy. I got to move on. Well, what if these things get your attention because you're meant to slow down? There is no music without beats and rests, without notes and rests. It's the rests that Western minds are so resistant to, interestingly enough. Give yourself permission to take a breath, to take a rest, and to just do that step by step, so that you are consciously aware of facilitating and curating your own healing, right? So the next one is inquiry. Having an inquiry from our heart is one of the most eye-opening things. It's one of the most incredible ways to act. Sorry, I have a phone ringing and I'm getting distracted by it. It's one of the most interesting ways to open up energy and to connect with this field here, be an inquiry or a question, right? Like, so what I have found to be useful in my own path with this is whatever's going on, I do all these things, and then when I'm at the inquiry place, I will, and more often than not, I journal this. I'm not saying you have to, I don't always, but it's valuable to do that. So I'm just putting that out there, handwritten, right? Because that actually moves energy in ways that typing on a computer isn't quite the same. If that's the only way you have to do it, fine. But I'm just saying that handwriting is it has a different level of potency than computer typing. The inquiry are things like, what would you have me know? What do you need? What is it that you know, meaning this energy, this symptom, this problem, this pain, this trauma? What do you know that is important for me to know? Now, you might get an answer right away. It's that still small voice that drops in, which is really literally your higher wisdom, which comes from every cell of your body. So it's important to be in your body and be present when you do this inquiring thing. But it's about connecting into it so that it can reveal its wisdom and its intelligence and its messaging, so that it doesn't need to keep getting your attention, right? And sometimes that happens right away. Sometimes it'll take a minute. It might take a couple of days. But if I hold the inquiry in my heart without like a tension around it, without this impatience to hurry up and get an answer that will give me something good so I can get rid of the symptom, the symptom will go away, I promise. But to the degree that we're really tight around getting rid of it sooner, like right now, not allowing ourselves this process, it'll just keep us stuck. And you might have had that experience before. So let the inquiry inform and gift you with insights about what it is about this energy that needs to be released or healed or transformed or alchemized, and give you back that same energy in a liberated light form. No longer it's no longer trauma. It's now a life force that liberates more of you, if you will. The next piece is a duality process. This I explained, that we go through this in the Sacred Health Academy, and I'll give you the nutshell version of it, because it's hard, it takes a lot to explain this. But let's just say you have a lot of anger that you or frustration that you, or you know what? Let me use one of the ones that recently. Hang on, let me get this. This is a duality that I recently worked with. Okay, let me do this one. Yeah. Hope. Oh no, it was disappointment. Sorry, let me just look over here. I can't read my notes. It's a bit of a scribble thing here. Oh, there it is. Okay, so it was hope and disappointment. So I have this thing that shows up a lot where I have hope for something that's really important to me, that I say I want to, magnetize it into my life, or feel it in myself, or whatever the thing is. And I hold this high hope, and then there's a not every time, but more than I'd like, disappointment, right? So that would be a duality. So hope and disappointment. And then the work of this duality process is, what this says is that there's always, and this is true, a third transcendent energy of wholeness that comes in when we're very clear about two seemingly polar opposing energies that are kind of tug of warring. They're playing tug of war back and forth. They're sparring. There's friction, that kind of thing. As we offer this up to our higher wisdom and say, the way I did it, I just talked to my higher. I just said, hey, I have this thing. I feel hopeful all the time, and then I feel disappointed, and I really want to transcend this warring energy. I want to bring it to rest, so that I can have access to this third transcendent energy of wisdom or wholeness. And what I got was my word. It's usually a word, but that word is so meaningful, right? It has an essence that is very much deeper than the meaning of the word itself. And what I got was fulfillment. And I can't, I could be with you here till midnight describing what that meant to me, but it meant so much. So then my job is to activate fulfillment in myself. I can only do this in connection with my higher self. These higher transcendent energies of wholeness and wisdom are only accessible in connection with our higher self. These other sparring energies are really usually at the human ego level, right? But the transcendent energy comes from higher consciousness, or our higher presence. My work now is to live into a state of feeling regularly fulfilled no matter what's happening, no matter what the circumstances. This is not, so my fulfillment isn't based on external circumstances. I can still, you know, do the things that I'm going to do in my life and have what do you call those, intentions and all those things. I can be really clear about that. But if I put all this energy into hoping, and then finding myself in disappointment, then I'm leaving out this thing, right? So I let those be at rest, and I'm cultivating fulfillment, and that fulfillment comes from this centering with my higher presence. And that is when we're centered with our higher presence, there's always a sense of satisfaction and fulfillment. It's a center point that doesn't require something to happen a certain way. Play with it. So that's the duality process. There may be some forgiveness needed of yourself and others. That's a whole nother piece that's important to not leave out. And then there may be some amends needed to be made to yourself. I'm so sorry, sweetie, that I have been so judgmental of you in this area or that area, right? Like, we need to gift ourselves those aspects of forgiveness. We aren't very generous with ourselves when it comes to that in the West. Some people are, but in general, most people are less generous than is recommended for liberating this light and this healing that I'm talking about. And we may need to forgive another, and that might require making amends. Maybe if the person has passed away, I have literally facilitated people to have a conversation with someone who has passed away, important, meaningful, deep conversations with someone, things that they didn't know how to say, things that were important for them to say, just to get off their chest, right? It's like writing, it moves energy. And then, if this is done in sort of a sacred way, then the energy, just the act of doing that is healing in and of itself. And oftentimes there's a reciprocal feeling of, reciprocity from the person, right? I mean, the veil is not that thick anymore. It's pretty thin. So we can actually have these kinds of conversations if you're willing to let yourself go there. And sometimes we need to make very specific choices. Like, I'll just use a general, if someone is doing drugs or, having a problem with alcohol, one of their clear choices might need to be to step away from that when they're ready. Of course, I'm using kind of a dramatic example here, but, there's all kinds of small things on the other side of that. If that's on a scale, and there's bigger things on the other side, right? Like, some people have to walk away from relationships. Some people have to step away from a job if they're being abused in any of those circumstances. Other little things like, I need to stop eating sugar, or I need to stop eating processed food, or I need to stop drinking Diet Coke. I mean, we've all made myriad of decisions like that, and they serve us, and we know which ones. So start with just one. Make a decision. Make amends with yourself, and make choices and decisions that actually fuel you and nourish you rather than tear you down. And then what happens if we can be, there's something that shifts, and this again happens by grace, which every heart has, by the way. So don't think that you're, like excluded from grace. You're not. This is an inclusive pool of grace for all human beings. Is that there's this gratitude for the feeling of when we do this. There is a feeling. It is a felt sense. There is a knowing, something that you now own, which is the energy that you get for evolving yourself through that is liberating. It's a feeling of liberation and freedom. I don't know how to put other words to it. You may or may not have felt it before, but I guarantee you, if you go through processes like this, you will feel it. And you can't help but feel grateful for that. And that energy alone brings you back in to alignment with this. Now, the key is, I used to think, I want to find this place, I want to live here, and I never want to have to do this. I don't want to have to do this. Well, that was a fallacy. That's just not how life goes, at least not yet. Might sometime, but right now, not the case. So what I decided is, okay, I need to two things. One, I need to get good at this. And it's possible, like any muscle that you can build, you cultivate the skill like anything else that's important to you. And that, again, I'll say it, the return on the investment of cultivating the skill is well worth it, not to be dramatic. And the second thing is, Oh shoot, I just lost what that second thing. The first one is cultivating the skill. Well, it'll come back. Oh, is that I need to make it fun. It isn't fun to be, in the quicksand of emotional pain. It isn't fun for anybody, and we don't want to stay there. We want it to inform us, teach us, give us the insights that it's designed to give us, so that we can find our way to the transformation, the healing, and the alchemy. So I find my fun ways to do this, and so lots of those are shared in the Sacred Health Academy. But part of it is creative process, because there's color, there's play, there's this co-creative experience that always drops in when I get my critical part of myself set aside. I give her another job so that I can be free to play. Um, there's yoga, there's nature. Anything that brings you joy, here's the bottom line, anything that brings you joy will help make this process easier and more fun. I mean, I use that word fun. It's kind of weird. It's not like we're going to a circus or anything, or a fair, but it just, I just needed to make it more fun than it felt like it was, because I was drowning in it, back several decades ago. So this is decades of practice that has informed me to understand that this is the labyrinth that we walk when we want to heal deeply, right? So that is the long and the short of it. Let me get my other little page here. Here's what I would recommend that you do, and this will be around the video for you to have access to. There's a free PDF copy of The Art of Returning to Love. A lot of these concepts are described in greater detail, and it's important for your mind to go, oh, that's what's going on, and that's why this is important, and that's why I'll do this, right? I'll do this work, that kind of thing. And the book is really good. It's actually a workbook, so dig in, get yourself in there. If you don't like to do a PDF thing, you can print it, of course, but then if you don't want to do that, then you can just get your copy on Amazon. You can either do Kindle or paperback. And put yourself in circles of support, so that you have accountability and that you stay on the path. All you have to do is put one foot in front of the other and keep moving forward. You don't have to have anything special. You don't have to figure out how to be any more magical than you are. You just have to be you and keep putting one foot in front of the other. It works best when you're in a circle of support. Because we tend to bring ourselves as far as we can, and then that's as far as we can go, and we need the activation of teachers or guides, or people that are walking on the journey with us, even if they're not on the same exact place on the journey. All of that activates us to continue walking. And so that activation and that accountability are really, really important. And I remember a few years ago, I asked, oh my gosh, the state of the world. I mean, this is even before COVID, right? And what's happening now? I said, oh, it just feels so important. It feels so like there's a rush to do this work. And I said, help me understand this. And what I heard is, there's no rush, but there's no time to waste. There is no longer time to put this off. So I really highly recommend that however you decide to walk this journey, whatever way that you teach yourself, or be in circles of support where you're learning how to do this, do it. If it's my circle, great. If it's someone else's circle, that's great too. It doesn't matter who the person is that attracts you most, but it does matter that you put yourself in a circle. So jump on board. I'll put all the information below. Share this video with those you care about, those you think it might resonate with, kind of speak to their heart, and I hope to see you on the path. Thank you.